Hello and welcome to episode 123 of the Mouse Makes Knitting podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse. There is no Miss Poppy today. I'm afraid Miss Poppy has become absolutely obsessed with one of her toys. It's not just her, to be fair, it's all three of the cats. And spends all day sitting next to it, patiently waiting for somebody to turn it on. I don't know quite how to describe it. I put a reel up of her playing with it the other week. It's like a yellow nylon circle, and underneath it there's an arm that goes backwards and forwards and round for them to chase. And they're all absolutely obsessed with it at the moment. We've been through one set of batteries, and it takes great big fat C-cell batteries, 4 of them. Loads and loads of them we're going through at the moment. So yes, so that's where Poppy is. She's not quite as well as she was last week, but she is definitely better than she was the week before. I think it's taking her a little time to get used to her new food. She's not very keen on it, and it's the only thing she's allowed to eat. So yeah, she just has to get used to it, really. But yeah, puppy wise, still better than she was. I'm wearing my eyelet burst today. As you can see, even though it's sort of wrapped around my neck, it makes almost like a little capelet, which is quite nice because it's the tops of my arms that get cold. And my neck has been very cold because I've sat on Zoom all morning with my friend Denise from Dear Designs. With wet hair, which was foolish because I'm not feeling very well to begin with, but my neck got really cold. I've just been and dried my hair and put this on to warm up, and I fished this out because Denise has just finished hers, and it reminded me that I'd got one, and she's used a very similar pink, but hers fades into grey, whereas mine goes into turquoise. So yeah, this is the Eyelet Burst by Stephen West. And Anne from the No Excuses podcast, who is Sparnitz, I think, on Instagram. I've put her off knitting one, but if you did it with 3 skeins, Anne, I did 4, I think you'd be all right, because this is it sort of wrapped around me like a kind of a poncho-y thing. So I'm sorry I put you off. I didn't mean to. I just meant use less than the 4 skeins recommended, because we're not all as tall as Stephen West. And the little pin I've got on it actually came from Temu. I can't remember how expensive it was. Not very. I don't know how well it'll last. And you've got to be sure that you get it round the right way, otherwise you can't get the pin through the other side. But at the moment I'm really liking it, so that's okay. Right, the Topping Out Mal, which is its correct name, and I've actually remembered to get the name right today. A prize was drawn from the chatter thread this weekend, and if you have entered into the chatter thread, you need to go and watch Belinda at Belinda's Baubles. She will be announcing who has won. All the information for finding that is down below. If I remember, I will put Belinda's Baubles on the screen, but that doesn't help you because it's not a link. What I'm going to try and remember to do is a little, not a tutorial, but I'll do a video showing you how you can find the description box if you're watching this on television, which is something that I didn't know you could do. What's going on back there? Oh, it's all right. It's just, it was up like that and now it's down like that. Yeah, Ewan showed me how to do it, so now I can show you. That's handy, isn't it? Right, I'll try and remember and do that when I've done this, actually. Okay, I have finished something. It's not my shawl. it's my Musselburgh hat that I was making for myself. I haven't blocked it. I don't really think I'm going to be honest. I made it from a gradient cake that I dyed up. At the end of the podcast, I will be talking about the shop update, which is happening this weekend. Gradient cakes will be in the shop update. So this is kind of how they knit up. So you've got a black end. For this particular colourway, there's a black end, and then that fades slowly into the pinky purple, and you finish with a purple end. Which means essentially that you've got two hats in one. So there is a black hat with a pinky purple brim, or a purple hat with a very interesting swirly thing going on, and a grey brim. And the grey, the black, where it's joined with the, how can I describe this? Where less of it has penetrated the yarn, it's kind of purpley toned. It almost looks like a navy blue by the time it gets to here. So that goes quite well. I actually prefer the black end, which surprises me because I thought I'd prefer the plum. But actually, let me wrestle this out of its ponytail, and then I can put it on and show you. Oh yes, that's lovely, Mandy. Yes, marvellous. There we go. I'm not very good with hats. I used to blame the fact that I had short hair, but now I have long hair and I'm still not very good with hats. So I'm afraid it might be my face rather than the length of my hair. But yeah. Or you can with this pattern. Did I say it was the Musselburgh? It's the Musselburgh by Zolder Teague. Excuse me a moment. You can also wear it like this, which is probably what people would prefer. I'm trying to show you the other way you can wear it. This has descended into farce already, hasn't it? I haven't even been on 10 minutes yet. Hang on. I can hear noise outside the door, which might be Poppy as well. This is possibly the most inelegant thing I have ever done. But yes, what I'm trying to show you is that as well as wearing it like a beanie, you can loosen it so that you've got a slouchy hat. Oh, my head is nice and warm now, though. Anyway, now that I've finished making a mess, or even more of a mess of my hair, I knit it on a 3mm needle. I tend to, because obviously this is 4-ply fingering weight, I tend to use a 3mm needle for Musselburghs with fingering weight, and I think I use a 3.75 if I'm doing a DK. I like it to be quite a tight fabric. Dave has got a couple now, so has Ewan, and Dave tells me excuse me, that they are pretty much windproof when they're doubled over at this gauge, so I stuck with that for mine because I will probably wear it when we take a walk down at the coast. So yeah, that's the second thing finished this year from my list of leftovers from last year. And now I'm never going to get my hair back into the ponytail. So I will have to put up with it being loose. Right. Star blanket. I set myself a micro challenge, if you like, to get onto the brioche before I saw you this week. I made it. Prepared to, let's just do it this way, it'd be easier. Prepared to be underwhelmed. I've got this much brioche, and that has taken me approximately 3 days. Getting here was not without adventure, shall we say. The previous section, this stripy chevron section, I got to halfway through this gold stripe, and I went downstairs and I got myself some lunch, and I came back up and I glanced at the pattern. Don't know what made me do it, but I realised that, because the pattern was on my little table in front of me the whole time that I'd been knitting it, and I looked at the pattern and I saw that on one of the rows out of the repeat I was supposed to have been increasing, and I'd got all the way to there from there without having increased. And I was on Zoom at the time. There was a minor, it wasn't even much of a meltdown. There was sort of a few seconds of, I cannot believe I've done this again. Because this is not the first time that I've picked up a pattern, having left it for some time, come back to it and gone, I know what I'm doing, which is a lie that I tell myself. I did not know what I was doing. And it very nearly went in the bin. I wasn't even going to pull it down. Very nearly went in the bin. And then, I can't remember who was on Zoom. I know Caroline was, from the Aria Bark podcast. And she said, right, how many stitches are you short? And it was only that one row out of the repeat. And so I worked out how many stitches I was short, and it was a manageable amount. She said, can you fudge it? Yes, I think I can. So my original plan had been to do it all on the last row. But when I saw how many stitches I was lacking and how many rows I still had to do, I managed to sort it out without doing that. So that by the time I got to the last row, which of course is when you need to start thinking about setting up the brioche, everything was back on track. Before I began the brioche, I put in lifelines. This was a suggestion made to me not only by Caroline, who knows me of old, but also by our friend Tony, who I think did she do the brioche when she knit the star blanket? No, star flake shawl. I don't remember. I know that I started off with the brioche on the starflake shawl and it went horribly wrong, and I pulled it back and I hadn't put in lifelines, and I ended up having to sort it all out, by which time I just knit there's a garter stitch stripe you can do instead. I did that. Can't remember if Tony did that or whether she did brioche. I'm trying to visualise because she's got it on the back of her sofa. I think she did the brioche. Anyway, I put in lifelines, and because it's a circular blanket and it was quite a large circumference, what I've done is put in for each point, so the blanket comes to a point 8 times, and so I've put in a Scooby essentially for every point, so there are 8 Scoobies in here. Which seemed like a brilliant idea, because if there was a mistake, in my head, I could just pull back and I could pick up one section at a time. It would be less overwhelming than trying to pick up all the stitches in one go. I could just do one section at a time, make sure I'd got all of them, move on to the next section. What I didn't allow for was the fact that the Scoobies are kind of silicone and grippy. And then when I came to do the first row of the brioche, the setup row, they were hanging on to the cable and the needles, and they made it all a bit of a trial. But once I got past the first row and then really the next row, it's been fine. And other than keep hooking myself up on them with the yarn, they've worked perfectly. And of course, because I've got them there, I probably won't need them. So that's even better again, isn't it? So, Star Flanket by Stephen West. Probably forgot to tell you that. Almost certain I forgot to tell you that. But yeah, so I am this far into it. There's probably 3 times as much brioche to go. I think it's about, this whole section's about that wide. I'm kind of enjoying it because it's not going wrong. I've got my head around the increases and decreases, and I am double checking my pattern as I go. I'm not doing the I know what I'm doing thing again, because twice on the same project would be foolish, I think. So once I get into the rhythm of it, it's really quite nice. The only trouble is, every now and again, I'll look at it and I can't remember what the heck I'm supposed to be doing. It happened the other day. I was knitting away. And you know how you get an earworm? And in my head was Islands in the Stream by Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton. And it was going round and round and round, just the first 3 or 4 lines. And I was sitting here knitting and I was thinking, doesn't make a lot of sense really. Why would you go after a man with a fine-tooth comb? Sounds more like you're trying to find knits. And it stole my brain completely. And I looked at my knitting and I didn't even recognise it. I didn't know what it was, let alone what I was supposed to be doing with it. I used to say, when I worked in a shop, we used to have a radio playing. And when I had to cash up, I had to turn the radio off because I couldn't count if there was music playing, because it took my brain. It completely steals my brain. Peter, this is nothing to do with knitting at all. Peter, on the other hand, he can only concentrate if he's got music. So when he was doing his homework or what have you, he'd always have earbuds in, or headphones it was then. There weren't really earbuds. And I used to say to him, how can you concentrate with that playing? And he'd go, I can only concentrate if it's playing. So it's weird that our brains are so different, yet in many ways we are very, very alike. Anyway, back to knitting. So, yeah. So long as I don't try and work out song lyrics, and just remember that sometimes things are just that way because they rhyme. Unless she meant like she was, what do they call it when you do your hair and you back comb it? Ratting it? I don't know. We don't need to think about that. I particularly don't need to think about that, and I apologise if I've now made you think about it. I like country music. I like lots of music. I've got a really itchy nose. This is descending into chaos again. I need to stop and get a grip. Right, so I think that's all I can tell you about this. I don't know if I will have finished the brioche by next week even. Each row takes me, well, in each row you're knitting twice, so it probably takes me 2 hours to do a whole row because I've gone through it with one colour and then again with the other. So yeah, it's not a fast process, but I am quite enjoying the rhythm of it. If I can keep my focus, I'm doing okay. So that's that one. I did meet my goal of being on the brioche. The other thing that because I've been trying to be kind of monogamous. I know it doesn't work to say you're monogamous when you're working on 2 projects. But compared to how I normally am, that's pretty good. I've been working on this. I should probably have shown you a picture of the star blanket, but I forgot all about that. So, never mind. This is the shawl. This is Glittering Snowscapes, again by Stephen West. I won't go back in the bag. Put it there. I am pleased to tell you that I am onto the border. It's going to be another big one. That's the centre. Oh, you can see my bruise. Sorry if you're squeamish. I'll do it this way. Oh no, I can't do it that way. Never mind. You've seen it anyway. Is all I have to say about this. This amount here, this is the sum total of 2 whole days knitting. I'm finding it a struggle. I've whizzed through the rest of it, enjoying it, but this border, I will take, like the brioche rows, I will take a row that takes me 40 minutes to an hour to complete over one where I just have to go backwards and forwards over a short number of stitches. I got so fed up that I'd knit 3 or 4 rows and then I'd put it down and I'd scroll through my phone for an hour and pick it up, do another couple of rows, scroll through my phone. While I was scrolling through my phone, I saw that somebody had got to here and had then just whacked an I-cord border on it and called it done. And I suppose I was about there. And I looked at it and I was like, is it too late? Yeah, it probably is too late. It nearly got pulled down and an I-cord border thrown on it because it is, like this one, going to be quite large. But if I can wear it like I am this one, that'll be a good thing. It's also, because of the yarns I've used, it's also very drapey. And I think when it's blocked, it's going to be even more drapey. The dark burgundy colour, this colour and this colour, those 3 are from Little Mouse House. And I think, are they merino, cashmere and silk? They are lovely. Yeah, merino, cashmere and silk. And they came as a set collectively called Blood Debt. Then the yellow and this colour, so clashing horribly with the pink, although I actually quite like that. Yeah, these 2 are mine. No, not that one. This one and this one. This was August's Year of Yarn last year, and this was November's. This doesn't show up terribly well on camera. It might look better when it's blocked. It's not a solid colour. There are paler yellows and golden yellows and mustards. It's variegated. I used 3 different colours to dye it. So there's sort of a lemon, a mustard and a golden yellow. But I don't think you can see that very well. Maybe if I hold it out like that. Anyway, it will need a bit of blocking once it's done. But yeah, this I'm finding a trial. Denise said to me this morning that I'll hit a point where I just want to get it done, and suddenly I'll start doing it and I'll just whack my way through it and I'll be fine and it'll be finished before I know it. And she's right. I think I've gone from knitting these rows were taking me 40 minutes. Star Flanket's taking me, well, 2 hours a row. And I've gone from doing that to backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And I'm just not liking it as much as doing a nice long row. So yeah, I'm going to take a little break from it for a couple of days and then get back to it and just see how I go. But I didn't realise from looking at the pattern that these eyelet rows, you cycle through your other colours. So that's actually quite nice. But yeah, struggling a bit with that one. So much so that on Sunday I put that aside and I picked up the cardigan that I had pulled out of my whip jar as being the next thing to work on, supposedly when I'd finished the shawl, but I couldn't wait. I started on Sunday. So I've done that much. And last night I measured my gauge. The cardigan is the Sonnenstunden cardigan by Evie Knitwear, and the yarn I'm using is James C. Brett in 09, colourway 09. And I was knitting it and I had on my lap a corner to corner blanket. It's a triangular blanket, so I use it as a blanket and a shawl. It's massive. That I made a couple of years ago, and it's almost exactly these colours. So clearly colours that I like. Yes, I was knitting yesterday and I measured my gauge and I'm getting way too many stitches to the inch. But as I've only done that little bit, how can I do this? I've only done this much of it. So rather than pull it down, I just went up a needle size. And I think that will probably do it, but I'll do a few rows and then I'll be able to tell. And this is a bit better for my knitting patience, shall we say, because although it's knit backwards, back and forth, which I don't mind, because until a couple of years ago I'd always knit everything in pieces, so you're knitting backwards and forwards, and my tension when I purl is exactly the same as my tension when I knit, because it's how I've always made things. But yeah, it's a decent length of row, so I'm kind of enjoying this as well. So I'll do a few rows, check my tension again, and then hopefully I'll be on track. It is a cardigan, so if it's going to come up a little larger, I don't really mind. I just didn't want it to come up any smaller and then risk it not fitting. So that's that. I've been through the whole range of colours and I'm back to the first again now. That's quite nice. That's going to go with a lot of things. I also pulled out, and I can show you this now because although you'll be seeing this on the last day of the month, they are sold out, so I can show you if I can find where I've put them. I'm making a blanket with mini clubs, my own Mousewitch yarn mini club, and bear with me a minute, I'm trying to find something. This will just be easier than putting a photograph in. So this was the inspiration photo. And these are the colours. Ignore the fact that this one's got a black border on. I'm making a blanket with these. And I'm holding the yarn double. And the original plan was to have these all in a row, and they were joined together with white yarn, but it didn't look good. And I sought the advice of my friends, and what I'd been going to do was have the 5 of mine and then the 5 of these. This is Yarn Unique, and I've signed up for her mini club, and this was January. The inspiration for this one is Journey Through Space, and January's was called 10 Billion Years, and this is those ones. It's really hard to show you 5 things all at once. So that was the January one from her. Now obviously I didn't know what hers are going to look like, but the plan was to have my 5 and this 5 as the strip along the bottom of the blanket. Mine on one side, hers on the other side, and then next month do the same but swap them over. So mine, hers, and so on up the blanket, swapping them over. And then doing it each month, joining them together. By the end of December, I'd have a whole blanket already done. But the advice I got was that, because I'm quite new to crochet, I tried using a join as you go and I didn't like it, because it was a join as you go for a traditional granny square and it was too holy. It didn't look right with this. So my friends said to me, just do a row of trebles, which is what I've been doing. It's supposedly a solid square. It's not very solid because I've blocked the life out of it, and I did use a 4mm hook, so I wanted to be able to block it a bit looser. So that's what I did, and I have tried joining it together, join as you go, with the next square, and it looks much better. There's, you know, sort of this much border between the squares, and that's gonna look better. The proportions are better and everything. So these were all joined together, I took them all apart, and I put that one together with this one to check the bordering around them, and it was good. But my friend Nancy, who has the Kitty Scrapper podcast, had said to me, I'd explained what I was going to do, and she said, but what happens if they don't go together? And I was like, well, that's why I'm going to put them, you know, mine and hers, hers and mine. She went, yeah, but supposing, she knows, for example, I can't have red and green together unless it's Christmas, and then it's got to be the right red and the right green. She went, supposing you've got red and green, they've got to go next to each other. And it was like, no, it'll be all right. And I was quite adamant it was going to be all right. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, actually, it's not going to be all right. What am I going to do? This month, it's all worked out really well, because these are pinks and purples and blues, and they go quite nicely with my pinks and blues. But subsequent months, obviously I know what's coming in mine. Mine aren't really following a theme. They're just colours that I've seen that I like and I want to put together. There's no real theme. There's just a like an inspiration photo each month. This is Journey Through Space, but who knows what colours could come out of that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until I've got a large pile of them, and then I'm going to mix them all up. Because much as my kind of list loving organisational brain wanted to put everything together, you know, put sets together, I'm not sure it's going to look the way I want it to look as a whole. And now that Nancy sowed the seed, I'm visualising it, and I'm seeing things that don't go together and they'll be in blocks. And if the blocks don't go together, it's going to ruin the whole thing. Whereas if there are colours that I cannot stand having together, I can separate them with loads of other things that do go with them. So the plan has changed slightly. There was a lot of trying to persuade me to put them into separate blankets, to do 10 stitch blankets for one, and I really do want to have them all in the same. I want it to be a whole year of the mini clubs, mine and Yarn Unique's. So I have 10 squares ready, and yeah, I don't know how many months I'm going to wait. I don't know that I can wait the whole year, and because that'll be 120. And in fact, I think the time that I signed up for Yarn Uniques, it meant that you got 13 months rather than 12. But I can't do that because there won't be an even number. So yeah, oh, I got a really itchy nose. I don't know that I can wait and do 120 squares and join 120 squares together, but I might. So in the meantime, I have 10. I have a starting square ready to have others joined onto it. I now know how to join as you go, and I'm fighting the urge to start yet another blanket with the leftovers from these. Each square, even though I'm holding them double, they're 20 gram minis, and I'm being left with over 8 grams, and it's very tempting. At the moment they're all going into a jar. They're going to end up in another blanket with other minis, I'm sure. But yeah, so I did that as well. Which is everything knitting wise. I've got some shop update stuff to tell you, so if you're not interested in that, that's fine, and I will see you next week for more knitting-y things. Probably the exact same knitting-y things, because I haven't managed to finish anything. I'm going to have to pause the camera and do something with my nose because it's itching me to death. One moment. That's better. I think I must have got a poppy hair on it or something. They're so fine and wispy, and I am allergic to her white wispy hairs. I've had cats all my life, and I've never been allergic to cats, but I've never had a white one before. And it's really fine and floaty. It's a bit like mohair. It's very, very soft. And that seems to be what I'm allergic to. And of course, this is where she spends a lot of her time, and there's just... I hoovered it out yesterday, but I can still see it's almost like a fur-lined basket. Anyway, shop update. So, where shall I start? Should we start with the mini club? Because I might as well. So the January mini club is finished. The February mini club, the shop update is on Sunday the 4th. So this will be going into the shop even on Sunday the 4th. And this is the inspiration. So, yeah. That will be the inspiration for February's Mystery Mini Club. The Birthstone collection, I have double checked, and the birthstone for February is amethyst, and so the variegated is this one. I can't help thinking that this pink is ruining all the colour. What's it? But so it's a mix of purples with, oh yeah, you can just see red, and it's actually purple, but it's looking blue. Red and bluish purple speckles. This one is quite variegated. There are lighter and darker patches, and tried to kind of capture what a gemstone looks like with each of these. So yeah, and then this is the amethyst tonal, which is a much pinker purple, but I think they still go quite nicely together. And for members only, those are available for everybody, but for members only, I'm going to be reissuing the February Year of Yarn colourway from last year. So that is only available for members to buy, because it goes quite nicely with those. Right, there will also be gradient cakes that will knit up something like this. There will be 2 listings for the gradient cakes. I haven't put them into the shop until now because I've been struggling with how to list them. So what I've done is I've done a listing that is black and a colour, and there are, I think, 8 different colours to choose from. And then there's another listing that is a colour and another colour that's not black, and I think there's 8 of those to choose from. Because of the nature of how they're dyed, they won't all knit up like this, but that's hand dyed for you in any way, shape or form, isn't it? Whatever you do with it. For example, if you were to knit socks with this, you would get one that was black fading to pinky speckles and one that was purpley plum fading to navy speckles. So you'd get a pair of socks that coordinated but didn't match. One skein shawl would be quite nice in it, I think. I'm planning on knitting one of those for myself, actually. I'm just dithering about what colours to choose. Yeah, so bear that in mind. If you're thinking about buying a gradient cake, bear in mind what you might be going to knit with it. Because of the way it's dyed, you won't get 2 socks the same, for example. Yeah, that's all I had to say about those. And then we have something new leather-wise. Oh, and I've just remembered, inside here is something I was going to show you. My Musselburgh, I had this much yarn left. It is a 0.79 grams. Because what I did was, when I did my increases, I weighed the ball, the cake, and I'd used about 10 grams. So when I got to 10 grams from the end of the cake, I started the decreases, and that was the difference, less than a gram. So I'm quite pleased with that. But this is what it was kept in. This strange little thing that has an eyelet in it, so you can open it up. It's still got my needles in. You can open it up like this and use it like a yarn bowl almost. Or you can, and this is what I've been doing, clip the strap on. And then your cake is inside, and it's handy when you take it out, because I just rolled the hat up and popped the hat inside it as well, and it held the hat and the yarn cake, and I could stand it on tables and things without it getting grubby, because it is, obviously it's leather, it's kind of wiped clean. I struggled to come up with a name for these. They are listed in the shop as a yarn holder, but also my friend Belinda from Belinda's Baubles said it's a mouse pouch. So it's listed as a yarn holder stroke mouse pouch. I wasn't sure if mouse pouch sounded rude, but yeah, so that's what it is. Again, they're made to order. It's really nice leather. It's quite thick, but it's very soft. So yeah, that's Dave's latest offering. And I think that's everything. I've usually forgotten something. I forgot something last week. that I was meant to tell you. But whatever it was, I've forgotten it again today. So you're never going to know, probably. I've no idea what it was. Oh, my nose is still very itchy. I might have to take an antihistamine. Right. I've no idea what time it is. I've got a feeling it's sort of 3 o'clock, if not later. And I still haven't had any lunch, which might account for, please excuse the nose scratching. And your dad would be telling me off as well, wouldn't he? Yeah, it might account for quite how chaotic and all over the place I've been today. So I'm going to go now, and I'm going to clear up this mess that I've made and find myself some lunch. I might find myself some lunch first, actually. Might be a better idea. Just going over my notes, making sure I haven't forgotten anything vital. I did tell you to watch Belinda's podcast to see who'd been drawn from the chatter thread this month, didn't I? I'm sure I did. If I didn't, watch Belinda's podcast to see who's been drawn from the chatter thread this month. Yes. Okay. Right. 3/4 of an hour. I thought I'd only been about 10 minutes, so I'm going to go now because that's a long time to have to put up with me. And you didn't even have Poppy to soften the blow. Last week, I noticed, there were lots and lots of comments. And everybody had come to see Poppy. I suspected that was the case. Nobody's here to see me and my knitting. You're all here to see the cat. And she couldn't even be bothered to come and see you today. So I'm very sorry about that. And I'm going to go away and leave you alone and hope that she's in a better mood next week. Bye, guys.